현재 지금은 배가 기울어졌습니다. 전 토할 것 같고요. 이게 뭔 상황인지 모르겠어. 구명조끼 입으라는 건 침몰되고 있다는 소리 아니야?
It's one of the most emotional and unforgettable events in South Korea's history. A story of loss, an unanswered question, and a powerful call for truth and accountability. Now, let's talk about my opinion and thoughts about the tragedy that happened during the South Korea's supposed golden era during April 16, 2014. So, during this time, the South Korea's government, or as they say, that during this period, this is the golden age of the South Korea. But why did they let this strategy happen? So according from the videos and articles that I read online, it sunk due to its capacity overload or negligence about the combination of structural instability and human error. Meaning to say, it didn't get processed thoroughly, or like they just went on it without even checking it on if it's safe for the students or most of the passengers to board through. So it's horrible to say that most of the victims that passed away in the Sewol Ferry are students. The passenger count of that Sewol Ferry is like 450 or something, and most of the board or the passenger there is students or students. So out of the 325 students that board the Sewol Ferry, only 75 students are safe, or they are safe from the sunken ship, or they escaped the tragedy to being quick or using their minds and not following the instruction of the elders or the ferry staff, or like they say, the captain, or the orders from the captain. So if this is truly the golden age of South Korea, why this tragedy happened? What did the government do, or what action did they take to rescue all those students? Like, it's like, why did they left the students there? Since from what I watched is that they said that they rescued all the students, meaning to say that all the ferry is clear of civilians, or all of the passengers are safely rescued and moved to a safer place. But it arises question or suspicion about, since they didn't look through it, or they are afraid to go in, since it's like dark inside the ferry, since most of it like it's sinking like to the bottom of the ocean or the sea, and like they don't have the like safe gear to pull the students out of it. Like, who does that? So the reason I think why the Sewol Ferry sunk is that like it undergoes illegal modification, like renovation. Like they bought it from the Japan in the year 2012, and when they bought it, it went to multiple renovation to increase its passenger capacity or the limits. Like, who does that? Why do they like prioritize income over than the safety of the customer or the passenger? Because of that, this strategy happened, and a lot of lives were lost, including mostly the students' life, that sad to say that they didn't get to see their future self and fall victim to the loss of the greediness of this company and the government also. Now that I am done, let's talk about the opinion of Jobel and Sebastian, or my other partner, about this podcast episode 1. You may now go.
Good day, I'm Jobelin C. Sebastian, and thank you, Mr. Panaria. And after hearing all you said, it really makes me think that the ferry shouldn't have sunk in the first place, because if you look into it, everything that happened was preventable. The ship was not hit by a storm, and it didn't crash into anything. It just sank because of the mistakes of the people that could have stopped. Especially that the ferry was too old and It had been modified illegally to carry more passengers and cargo than what it was built for. And it's not properly balanced. And those things alone should have seen as a red flag. And what's more heartbreaking is that people knew that there was something off, but there is no one that stepped up to fix it. And if the company or the inspector and even the government have done their jobs right, this tragedy would never happen. And that's why this episode was titled "The Ferry Shouldn't Have Sunk," because it shouldn't have sunk because the warnings were there, and it shouldn't have sunk because the rules were there to prevent this kind of disaster to happen. And most of all, it shouldn't have sunk because there were hundreds of young lives at risk, and that should have been everyone's top priority. And that's why the captain should have acted faster, and the Coast Guard should have responded better. And the government they should have made ensure that the ferry was safe. But none of that happened, and everyone thought that someone else will do something, but no one did. And it's painful to think that this all happened during what was supposed to be golden age in Korea. Because what kind of golden age that would allow something like this to happen? I mean, you can have all the success and the progress in the world, but if safety and responsibilities are ignored, tragedies like this will always remind us that there's something broken. The Sewol ferry didn't sunk because of the storm or fate. It sunk because of the people in charge, and they had the powers to stop it, but they didn't. And that's why it hurts the most. Those students, those teachers, their families, they all trusted the system, but the system failed them. So this episode, the ferry that shouldn't have sunk, we're not just talking about the ship, we're talking about everything that failed around it. The greed, the neglect, and the silence. Maybe by remembering that this ferry should have not sunk, we can make sure that there's no tragedy like this will ever happen again.
Welcome to episode 2 of our podcast, Below the Surface, titled Love and Loss Beneath the Waves, where we explore stories of sad tragedy, which is the Sewol ferry disaster. But here we will show and prove to everyone that there's still hope for humanity and love in the midst of waves, even in their darkest times. And I am Ruth.
This Sewol tragedy, that we call Sewol ferry accident, happened on April 16th on 2014, and I don't know why hindi ko alam since that year, or at least more recently. Nalaman ko lang siya this year, ngayong second year college ako, and actually this is the heaviest of them all na napanood ko, na nalaman ko, because it was true, di ba? Sobrang hirap, lalo na kung alam mo yung nangyari noon that time is actually nangyayari pa rin hanggang ngayon. Yeah. Siguro karamihan sa atin, of course we know how hard that was for their parents. Yeah, especially on their parents, to their parents na yung anak mo nabulon sa ferry and you couldn't do anything. They're helpless, diba? Because they're students. And syempre, yung mga taong may kaya at dapat may ginawa that time, they were not there. Especially the president
But even though many years may have passed, we know that the pain still echoes in those families who lost their loved ones, who's right now felt so much guilt, disappointments to people who put their trust and hope that could save their children, but they know na hindi na yung mababalik. And in that heartbreak, there were moments of just quiet nightmares, but also unforgettable love that will surely reach everyone's heart.
Yeah, that was the most impactful stay sa una ko since I've watched the video. And ikaw Ruth, ano sa tingin mo yung nag-stay sa'yo na ano yun, alam mo?
One of the stories that stays with me is one of the students who texted their families as the ferry sank. Messages like, "Don't worry about me, mom," or "I love you." Phrases like that, for parents, is really out of nowhere yung mag-message siya yung anak mo. If I'm the parent, siguro, magugulat ako. But, maybe in different ways. Nagulat ako kasi baka kung ano na nangyari sa anak ko, or magugulat ako na may saya sa puso ko at the same time kasi biglang I love you, nag-send ng sweet message sa akin yung anak ko. But sadly, not knowing what's happening and knowing na those are their final words na pala is really heartbreaking. We will never see it coming but for me, they are pure love. Not grand gestures, just simple truth when everything else was falling apart. Because even though they weren't sure they were going to be saved, they still take their time to remind their parents how much they love them and they don't want them to worry about them. There's even one student who seeks for forgiveness because she's worried if she did something that hurt others. And imagine being worried that you hurt others rather than worrying more about your own life in that moment. It's just really amazing.
Oh yeah, alam mo, it reminds me of that love isn't about time. It's about the presence. Kasi you can see the kids or the students. For that moment, they were longing for their parents' love. And they cared. They cared that they know the captains or the crew's ferry na yun is they will help them to get out of the ferry so they get out safely to their parents, so they go home safely.
Yes, and ang ganda nung nabasa ko sa comment section na even when their life ends, it becomes something naman to help them to keep on standing when they are already in the bridge of giving up. And it helped them to realize that the life they have right now is too precious just to take it away. And it also inspired them to live more, kahit hindi na para sa kanila, kahit doon na lang sa mga children na nagsuffer or nawala, and sa mga parents na nawalan. It helped them to change their perspective about their life and parang nagkaroon sila ng purpose to live more para maipaglaban yung injustice and yung bulok na sistemang nangyayari dun sa country nila, so it won't happen again in the future.
Yeah, as we saw in the documentary, yeah, diba? Love comes from the persons who were really cared about them. For example, civilian divers. They were not included, or they're not about to be at fault of the casualties, but they were there to help the one who's under there, below the surface, because it shows the love that we have and the care that we have, that we surely should have.
Exactly, and I remember one diver said, I couldn't save them, but I could. Exactly, and I remember one diver said, I couldn't save them, but I could bring them home. And kahit, di ba, wala naman silang connection dun, and kahit hindi nila yung kaano-ano, they still did it, kahit alam din nila yung risk, and pwedeng maging kapalit din to ng buhay nila. That's, for me, that's pure love eh. The kind of love that doesn't seek recognition, only for peace of helping others. They do not wait for a camera to show up for the higher ups and to our world just to make them know they're doing something. They do it willingly, and they did that through their heart.
Alam mo, yeah, it's easy to talk about love. Consider love because they're present, di ba? But how can you show them or how can you tell them if they can't read the letters that they wrote?
In a way, the whole country carried that love. Yellow ribbons appeared everywhere, on trees, backpacks, street corners, with symbols that said, we remember, we still care, and for the parents who did not forget and give up because they are digging for the truth of what really happened, and I believe they deserve to know the truth of what really happened to their children. Right, Dana?
Then yeah, that's true. Yes, it's the love. It's become collective because it wasn't just a personal grief or, it was national's compassion na rin. Even now, I think the yellow ribbon reminds us that the love can survive even in the tragedies, darker side or the shadow of the incident that happened. It's reminding us.
Maybe that's what the Sewol tragedy teaches us, that love is not fragile, and it's the very one thing that cannot sink.
Well, yeah, it's reminding us na every day, even simple way, we say, Ma, Pa, Dad, Mom, I love you, I miss you. Even that simple thing, isipin mo na those are the students na they're really longing for the parents that time. And they couldn't help because, they followed the rules, they followed the wrong decisions of the officials.
To those parents who lost someone that day, our hearts are with you. And I hope this helps us people to inform that despite some people's unfairness, hindi yung mawawala, who shows no sympathy or even empathy, just a little. There's still good in people who are willing to show up to fight for what is right, just like the parents and civilians did that time. To wake up people, to wake up the world, and come together na yung may mga tao talagang hindi deserving sa position na yun, and kaya nila yung mapatalsik with the power of coming together. And hindi dapat na dun lang tayo dumidepende sa mga sinasabi ng nakakataas sa atin kung paano dapat yung proseso, kundi kung ano yung alam natin dapat ipaglaban natin para hindi na maulit yung ganong disaster.
Yeah, and to those who's listening, may we live the same courage and love that shone through that dark sea. Thank you
for joining us on Moments Between Waves.
Hey guys, welcome back to Below the Surface, your safe space for real convos, deep feelings, and a little bit of life drama on the side. I'm Angge.
And I'm Hannah. If this is your first time tuning in, Below the Surface is basically where we talk about life, emotions, and our society. And all those things na madalas tahimik lang pero deserve pag-usapan.
Yeah, this is that corner of the internet where we keep it real. Every episode, we dive in stories that hit different. Stories that make you think, stories that make you feel, and stories that remind us what it truly means to be human.
For this episode, we're getting a little deep tonight. The title is The Rescuer Who Couldn't Save Himself.
This one's based on the true story of Kim Gwan-ho, a civilian diver from South Korea who volunteered during one of the country's worst maritime disasters, the Sewol Ferry tragedy.
But this isn't just about the tragedy itself. It's about what happens after the rescue, yung part na hindi nakikita sa headlines, the quiet pain of the people who gave everything to save others but couldn't save themselves.
So kung nakikinig ka ngayon, maybe this episode will remind you na kahit ikaw yung strong friend, kahit ikaw yung palaging nandyan para sa iba, you still deserve saving too.
So take a deep breath, grab your drink, and find your safe spot, and let's get into it.
April 16, 2014. The ferry MV Sewol was on its way from Oncheon to Jeju. On board were more than 400 passengers, mostly high school students excited for their school trip. You can imagine the atmosphere before that tragedy. Kids laughing, chatting, making TikTok-style videos, and probably jogging around with their teachers. It was supposed to be one of the happiest days of their lives. But then, something went wrong. The ship began to tilt and panic started to spread. The water came rushing in. The ferry capsized completely within hours.
The whole world watched as the tragedy unfolded. Families at the port screamed and cried, waiting for updates that never came. Rescue teams struggled against strong currents and bad weather. In the end, 304 people lost their lives. Most of them are just teenagers.
When you think about it, it's not just a number. It's hundreds of dreams cut short. Hundreds of families broken. And that's when the rescuers came in. Firefighters, Coast Guard, and volunteer divers. One of them was Kim Gwan-ho. He was not in the military. He wasn't a government official. He was just an ordinary diver who saw the news and decided to help. He dove into cold, dark water, risking everything to bring people home.
Imagine that kind of bravery na makakita ka ng sakuna na alam mong delikado, tas ang sasabihin mo pa din, punta ako doon at tutulong ako. Na para bang hindi silang nagdalawang isip kasi alam nila na ayun ang tama at dapat gawin.
But inside those waters was something no human should have to see. Kim recovered body after body. He was once said he was haunted by painful memories of handling dead bodies. The silence underwater, the darkness, the weight of the people he carried, those memories never left him.
At pagkatapos nga ng rescue, nagka-trauma siya. Hindi siya makatulog gabi-gabi, palagi siyang binabangungot ng mga mukha ng mga lalunod at natrap dun sa barko. At naaalala niya yung mga pag-iyak ng mga pamilya dahil sa pagkawala ng kanilang mahal sa buhay. Kaya ayun, nagkaroon siya ng depression at physical injuries. Kaya hindi siya makapasok sa kanyang trabaho.
He tried to find comfort in his fellow divers. They met, talked, and sometimes drank together, trying to make sense of what they had gone through. But even then, the pain stayed. He felt abandoned by the system that should have helped him heal.
Meron akong nabasang isang article na kung saan sabi ng isang diver, ginagawa namin yung trabahong dapat ang gobyerno ang gumagawa. Dapat lang na i-compensate kami dahil sa naranasan naming hirap. Dito, makikita mo talaga yung iniwan sa kanilang matinding trauma dahil sa pangyayari.
And in June 2016, Kim Gwan-ho was found dead in his home. Authorities said it was suicide. He was only 43.
At dito natin nakuha ang title ng episode natin ngayon. The Rescuer Who Couldn't Save Himself. Na talaga namang nakakalungkot at nakakapaglungkot.
Let's talk about that deeper. Because a lot of people, even us, sometimes fall into the same cycle. We pour ourselves into saving others, giving advice, comforting friends, making sure everyone's okay. But we forget to check in with ourselves.
We hide behind a smile and say, okay lang ako, kahit hindi naman totoo. Na para bang may suot tayong invisible na kapa. Iniisip na kung patuloy tayong tutulong at magligtas ng iba, magiging ayos din tayo. Pero hindi ganun yun.
Kim's story shows that even people with the biggest hearts can collapse under the weight of it all. Because being strong all the time is exhausting. And sometimes the people who look the strongest are the one fighting battles we can see.
Ang trauma doesn't always look like crying. Minsan, it's silence o katahimikan. Na minsan matutulala ka na lang. It's that heavy feeling na nararamdaman mo sa loob.
Society is quick to celebrate the heroism, but not the healing. After the spotlight fades, the heroes are left alone. And that's a tragedy within a tragedy. But after that, no one checks in. No one asks, kamusta ka?
Maybe that's the real message here. Compassion shouldn't end when the news stop airing. It should continue long after spotlight fades. Because that's when the healing starts.
Exactly, Hannah. And this isn't just a Korean story. This is a human story. Lahat tayo may ganitong space sa buhay. You give your all for others, but in the process, you forget yourself. And it's not only about divers or rescuers. It's about people who take care of others every day. Parents, teachers, nurses, students, friends. Lahat tayo may palaging pinipkay, pero bihira lang tayong makatanggap.
Kaya sa lahat ng nakikinig ngayon, kung isa ka ring rescuer na palaging natulong sa kapwa, na hindi mo na naiisip yung sarili mo, tandaan na pwede ka rin magpahinga. Pwede kang huminto saglit, pwede kang humingi ng tulong at aminin na hindi mo kaya.
And if you know someone like that, reach out. Don't wait for them to ask. Sometimes, all it takes is a message that says, "Hey, I'm here, you're not alone."
Small gestures can save someone's life. Kahit kamustahin mo lang yung araw nila, sa pamamagitan nito, nakakatulong ka na.
To be honest, I think that's what Kim wanted. Not fame, not recognition, but understanding. He wanted someone to see him as a person who was tired, not just as a rescuer.
He was a human. He was brave, yes, but he was also broken. And there's nothing weak about that. Sometimes, the bravest thing we can do is to admit that we're not okay.
Before we wrap up, let's leave you with something to carry after this episode. For me, it's this. Saving others doesn't mean you're safe from the storm. So please, take care of yourself.
Sa akin naman yung even the strongest swimmer can drown in silence. Huwag na natin hintayin na huli ang lahat. Kaya ngayon, humingi na tayo ng tulong sa iba.
In one whole story is heartbreaking, but it's also full of lessons. It teaches us compassion and it teaches us to look beyond the surface and see the human behind the hero.
Kasi hindi naman lahat ng mga bayani ay need lang ng palakpak at papuri sa tao. Kailangan rin nila ng pag-uunawa, kailangan nila ng care, kailangan nilang may taong magpapaalala sa kanila na okay lang magpahinga.
So if this episode touched you, take a moment today to thank the people who've been there for you. The ones who keep showing up even when they're tired. Tell them they matter, because sometimes that's the rescue they needed. We'll be back soon with another story, another reflection, and another heart-to-heart conversation.
Until then, stay kind, stay soft, and keep choosing to care.
Again, this is Angge.
And this is Hannah.
Hello everyone, so I am Kim and I have here my co-host Miss Reina. So today's episode is a tough one because we're going to talk about the Sewol Ferry incident. and the scars that leave the survivors and the parents. For me, the Sewol tragedy is one of those moments that stays with you. And even if you weren't there, you can feel their trauma. It's not just about the ferry sinking. It's about how hundreds of students were told to to stay put while the ship was going down. How can they say that to the students while tragedy is going on? So, what can you say about it, Miss Reina?
Well, thank you for that question, Kim. Well, actually, ever since I watched that video and that documentary, I have to admit that is the most selfish thing that you could ever done. That yeah, you can say that you can calm down because everyone can be saved. But the thing here is only 175 plus people that were only saved. The remaining 300 plus people were dead. I have to admit it's so selfish in a way that they chose to save themselves first than the students because shouldn't you be assisting the student first because you're the captain, you're the one who's responsible for the students, and it's so disturbing. Yeah, that's my opinion about it.
Also, it's about how the people who were supposed to protect them abandoned the ship, and it's about how the rescue was delayed when every second mattered at that moment. What breaks my heart is parents weren't just grieving, they were fighting for answers and justice, for their children's memories to be honored. And they did it quietly, persistently, even when the world tried to move on. Do you agree with that, Miss Reina?
Yes, I do agree with that, Kim. It's just that this is not about the death of their children, but it is also the this that couldn't be served for the parents. And we both know that it's not easy. It'll never be easy that you've lost someone that you love, and yeah, it's not that easy at all, and they'll forever carry the burden and the pain in their lives because they as far as I know, they didn't really got the justice that they wanted. It's like you would literally question the justice. Like, is the justice itself is only applicable for people who have power, who have money, and it is not applicable for normal people who just live their lives, or just like, where's the human rights? To be honest, it's really heavy to watch that video because yeah, I watched it by myself, so yeah.
And also, there are the survivors. People think surviving means you're lucky, but many of them carry guilt, trauma, and pain that no one sees. And also some were blamed. Some stayed silent for years, like they cannot forget what happened to them. And also the classmates that died during that incident. Then, to me, the Sewol Ferry incident is a reminder that silence doesn't mean peace. Sometimes silence is grief or pain that no one sees. It's resistance, and sometimes it's survival. And I think we owe it to them, the parents, the survivors, and the students who made it home, to keep listening, keep remembering, and keep asking, how do we make sure this never happens again?
I hope we can really learn from this, because actually reflecting on it, it is really a sad reality in this world, because the justice is not fair for everyone, but it is only fair for the people who have the power and the money. And I hope we can pray for the souls of those victims, and I know that one day that they'll pay for the sins that they caused and the damage that they caused to the parents, to the survivors, to the victims. And yeah, I guess this is the end of our episode.